Hello, I'm Kurma. Welcome to the Gourmet Vegetarian Cooking Video Encyclopedia. This edition, we're going to show you how to prepare all these delicious vegetable dishes. Spinach, eggplant, chickpeas and tomato stew. North Indian red bean curry. Cauliflower sautéed with green peas. And mixed vegetables in seasoned broth. So, let's begin. Sautéed cauliflower with green peas. Now, here's a mildly seasoned, beautifully textured vegetable that's very simple to prepare. Let me show you how it's done. First of all, take one medium-sized cauliflower. Now, when you're buying cauliflower, it's best to make sure that the cauliflower is fresh, there's no brown spots on it, it's firm and hard, and the buds are tight. Now, the way we're going to cut our vegetables is as follows. First of all, cut around the core like so. This core can be discarded. Throw away any extraneous leaves. And each of these large florets can be trimmed into smaller pieces like this. I don't cut right through, just cut it 3/4 through and break it the rest of the way. This makes the minimum amount of wastage. Like so. And continue on until you have cut all the cauliflower into even size pieces, like here. So here we have one already prepared cauliflower, and over here we have 1 cup of fresh green peas. Now here's some of the other ingredients that we're going to be using in this very simple dish. We've got 1/2 tablespoonful of ginger, 1.5 tablespoons of whole cumin seeds, 8 or 10 curry leaves, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of salt. We've got 4 tablespoons of ghee. Over here we've got 1/4 cup of heavy cream, or you can use sour cream or yogurt, and 2 tablespoons of minced parsley. So this is how it's done. In a heavy pan, first turn it on and saute your spices by firstly pouring in your ghee. Alternatively, you can use oil. And when the ghee becomes hot, stir in your fresh ginger root. Next, add your cumin seeds. And saute them till they go brown. Now add the curry leaves. When you start making a masala, put in the fresh or the dried leaves and cook them until they're crisp. Now add your cauliflowers. Along with the rest of the spices. Saute your cauliflowers now until they're half cooked. In other words, they should be halfway between raw and tender. Quite a strong aroma there as the cayenne pepper hits the wok. Now, when the cauliflowers are half cooked, add the peas. With about 2 tablespoons of water. Now, when you've sautéed your cauliflowers and peas together for about a minute, turn the flame down to low, place a lid on top, and come back in about 5 minutes, and they should be tender and ready to go. Now let's see if our cauliflowers are tender. Yes. Now we should just saute the vegetables to make sure now that there's no more moisture left in there until they're perfectly dry. Which they are. No moisture left. Let's add our cream. Our fresh coriander. Fold everything in. And there it is. Fresh cauliflower sauteed with green peas. Spinach, eggplant, chickpea and tomato stew. A beautiful dish with a beautiful vegetable. Spinach. But unfortunately I've seen many spinach dishes that have been ruined because of one reason. Even though it looks very beautiful, you bite into it and you realize they've forgotten to wash the spinach. So this is a golden rule. When you're preparing spinach, you have to wash it very, very carefully. At least 2 or 3 times, if not more. So here we have one bunch of spinach. I'm going to dump it in a big bowl of water here. I'm going to show you just how much sand and grit you can get out of a bunch of spinach. The reason is because spinach is grown in a very sandy environment, and it stays there between the stems and between the leaves. So a great deal of effort must be put into getting all that sand out, because any sand left in there will be there right at the end of the cooking process, and you'll feel it there crunching between your teeth. Just see how much dirt's there. I'm going to show you just how much dirt's left in our bowl here. Just look at all that. Now that would have ended up in your spinach dish. So you do this at least 2 or 3 times until the rinsed water is completely clear and there's no more trace of sand. Now I'm going to show you how to prepare your spinach leaves. After you've washed them all, separate them all, and I'll show you a quick way of taking the stalks off from the leaves. Now, all the flavour of the spinach is in the leaves, not in the stalks, so you don't really need the stalks. Hold the spinach leaf between your thumb and forefinger and simply pull out the stalk, and you're left with a leaf. And now gather all the leaves that you've pulled the stalks out from in a little clump on your cutting board, and with a nice sharp knife, chopping your spinach is actually quite easy. That's chopped spinach, quite simple. So it's okay to leave a few stems in, but it's nice to pull most of them out, especially for this dish, which is nice and creamy. Let's have a look at some of our other ingredients here. We've got one bunch of spinach that's been chopped up very fine. We've got one medium-sized eggplant that's been diced into little cubes. We've got 4 medium tomatoes that have been diced very small, 1/4 cup of ghee, 1 tablespoon of freshly minced ginger, 1 teaspoon of fresh green chilies that have been minced, 1.5 teaspoons of cumin seeds, whole, 1/2 teaspoon of black mustard seeds, 3 tablespoons of fresh parsley, 10 or 12 little curry leaves. By the way, if you can't get curry leaves, you can always use bay leaves, 1/4 teaspoon of asafoetida, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1.5 teaspoons of honey, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and 2/3 cup of chickpeas that have been soaked to produce 1 2/3 cups of chickpeas. In other words, these have been soaked They've been cooked and drained, and these are very soft, as you can see. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ghee, place it in our heavy pan here. I like to use a wok for this. We're going to heat up the ghee and add our spices and make our spice masala. So when the ghee gets hot, add your mustard seeds. Cook them till they crackle and pop. And then add your ginger, chilies, and cumin seeds. Stir fry all the spices. Until they go a little brown. And then add your curry leaves and asafoetida. When the curry leaves go a little brown, toss in your eggplants. So now you have to stir fry your eggplants for about 10 minutes. You'll notice that they'll shrink a little and they'll fully absorb all the spice-flavoured ghee. So the 10 minutes is up. The eggplants have reduced. Let's add our tomatoes. Stir them in. Our turmeric and salt. And of course our spinach. Now, the amazing thing about spinach is how it reduces so much. When you first put in your spinach, it seems like a lot, but then after some time it starts to shrink and it becomes a creamy puree. Let's put half of our parsley in. Give it a little stir around. Let's put our lid on and we'll come back in 5 minutes. So, 5 minutes is up. Let's add our chickpeas. Fold it all in. Now it's beginning to look very exciting. In fact, now we have to cook this down till it's almost like a puree, because those eggplants are still not done. So, after we fold in the chickpeas, we're going to reduce the flame to low, and stirring every now and again, we'll come back in about half an hour. Well, it's been about half an hour, and it's done. Succulent spinach, chickpea, eggplant, and tomato stew. Bring on the rice. Rajma. Here's a classic North Indian red bean curry that's really exotic. I'll show you how to make it. Over here, we have red kidney beans. These are going to form the basis of our curry, but we're not going to use them raw like any other bean. They have to be soaked. Here we have 2 cups of red kidney beans that have been soaked and cooked in the juice they were soaked in till they were butter soft. In the water, also, we placed 1 tablespoon of turmeric and 1 bay leaf. Notice how butter soft they are. Now, along with these beans, which form the basis of our curry, we have the following ingredients. We have 4 tomatoes, which have been diced, 2 cups of diced fried curd, 2 teaspoons of cayenne, 1.5 teaspoons of mango powder, 2 teaspoons of turmeric, and 1 teaspoon of garam masala, as well as 5 tablespoons of ghee, half a cup of water, 1 cup of minced coriander leaves, 2 tablespoons of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of fennel seeds, 1.5 tablespoons of cumin seeds, 1/3 of a teaspoon of ajwain, 2.5 tablespoons of coriander, and 3 teaspoons of fresh ginger. Now, so that's all the ingredients. So the first thing you have to do is take your beans and drain them, but don't throw away the juice, because we're going to use that a little later on. Not only is that juice very nourishing, it's also going to form the basis of the liquid portion of our curry. So while those beans are draining, we're going to prepare our paste masala. I'll show you how to do that. Take one blender and place all these whole spices in it. That's fennel seeds, cumin seeds, ajwain seeds, and coriander. Blend them to a powder. Now they're done. Now what we're going to do, we're going to add our ginger and our water, and we're going to blend it up some more. Right, now, in a bowl, place your cayenne, mango powder, turmeric and garam masala, like so. And on top of that, pour the contents of the blender. Making sure you don't leave anything behind. And mix it up to a smooth paste. This is called your paste masala. This spice paste is going to be fried in ghee and is the basic spice ingredients for our curry. Now take your ghee, place it in a pan, a good heavy pan, heat it up and fry your spice masala in it. You should fry your paste masala for about 1 or 2 minutes. Now add your tomatoes. And you should fry those in the paste masala till they're soft and they begin to break down for about 5 or 8 minutes. Well, these tomatoes have been about 5 minutes. Oh yes, definitely ready to add the rest of the ingredients. So we've got our red kidney beans for a start. We're going to fold those in. And the curd, the salt, and don't forget we have our gravy. Now, if you want a dry curry, then just add a little. If you want a wet curry, you can add more. Now, let's not forget our coriander leaves. These are a must. And there it is, Rajma, exotic North Indian bean curry. A real feast. Here's a classic Bengali recipe, which is over 500 years old. This is called Lafra Byanjana. It's a beautiful dish, which is more akin to a soup than a vegetable. It's very easy to digest. Let me show you some of the ingredients. We've got 6 cups of assorted vegetables here. Notice that they've been chosen for their colour appeal. We've got pumpkin, green beans, carrot, beets, zucchinis and potatoes. We've also got 2 or 3 medium-sized tomatoes that have been diced. And we've got 1 tablespoon of ghee, 1 teaspoon of honey, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of fresh ginger root, 1 teaspoon of green chilies minced, 1 2/3 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of minced fresh coriander. Now let's place all these ingredients in a heavy pan. Tomatoes, spinach, all the vegetables. This is a beautifully coloured dish. Got some ghee. We've got our honey. All our spices and herbs and salt. And one other thing, 3 cups of water. Turn the flame on to full, bring it to a boil, then turn it down to a simmer and cook it for about 10 or 15 minutes or until the vegetables are nicely soft. Well, it's been about 10 minutes now. Let's have a look at our Lapya Branjana. It's looking very beautiful. And let's just check some of our vegetables to see whether they're done. As the pumpkin, it's butter soft. Same with the zucchinis. And we've got one final seasoning here. We've got 1 tablespoon of ghee, 1 1/4 teaspoons of cumin seeds, half a teaspoon of black cumin seed, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1 bay leaf, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, and half a teaspoon of black mustard seeds. And now we take 1 heavy pan, place it on a high flame. We're going to fry up our spices in the ghee and make this fried masala. Let's add our mustard seeds. And when the mustard seeds start to crackle, add your cumin seeds, black mustard seeds, bay leaf and black pepper. Now we add these to the finished product. Now we just simply simmer the spices and vegetables together so that the flavour of the spices and the vegetables combine for a minute or 2. And add your lemon juice, stir it in, and there we have it. Let the spices and the vegetables simmer together for a few minutes so the flavours mix and Then serve it with hot rice for a beautifully textured, colourful dish. Lapra Byanjan. So there we have it, another beautiful selection of dishes that can be prepared using vegetables. Happy eating.